Welcome back to Outside Views. Today we're diving into a topic that has been making waves in the media lately. The push from UK universities to restart the flow of EU students to Britain after Brexit. And this conversation gained even more traction after the recent meeting between Keir Starmer and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen last Wednesday. Universities in the UK are urging the government to find a way to bring back programs like Erasmus, which previously allowed thousands of EU students to come study there in the UK. The loss of these programs has been felt deeply, and today we'll take a closer look at why this is such an important issue, how Brexit has impacted international education, and what the future might hold for student exchanges between the UK and continental Europe. To set the stage, let's revisit Erasmus for a moment. For those unfamiliar, Erasmus was an EU program, and still is, that enabled students to study in different countries across Europe, and at that time including Britain as part of their degree. It was immensely popular, bringing thousands of bright, motivated students from across the EU to British universities every year. In the academic year before Brexit, over 17,000 EU students came to study in the UK. And these students weren't just tourists. They were an integral part of the university community, contributing to the learning experience of both local and international students. But since Brexit, the UK is no longer part of Erasmus, and the numbers of EU students coming to the UK have significantly dropped. And this drop has affected more than just university enrollments. It has affected the vibrancy and cultural diversity of the UK's academic institutions. And let's not forget the economic impact. International students, including those from the EU, contribute not just through tuition fees, but also to the broader economy. They rent flats, buy groceries, visit local attractions, and in some cases, even work part-time to support themselves. The economic contributions of these students are considerable, and their absence is being felt. Vivian Stern, the chief executive of Universities UK, recently spoke out about this issue. She expressed regret about losing a flow of really good European students into the UK and highlighted how valuable they were to the academic environment. And her words reflect a sentiment shared by many in the education sector that the absence of EU students has left a significant gap. The cultural exchange that happens when students from different countries learn side by side cannot be overstated. It's in these classrooms, dormitories, and student unions where lifelong friendships are formed, where diverse perspectives meet, and where young people prepare to become global citizens. But here's where things get complicated. Despite the recent meeting between Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen, it seems that there hasn't been much progress on the issue of student mobility. The meeting, held last Wednesday, was meant to discuss several topics, including resetting the broader relationship between the UK and the EU post-Brexit. And there was hope that the question of student exchanges would be on the agenda, but it seems that other matters took precedence. Instead, the focus was on topics like defense, security, and even a potential veterinary agreement, important issues to be sure, but not directly addressing the concerns of universities and students. And Keir Starmer, while in New York prior to the meeting, had hinted at the possibility of a youth mobility scheme. He seemed to soften his stance, suggesting that there could be some space for under-30s to travel and work across borders, which would include opportunities for education. However, by the time of the meeting, there were no concrete commitments made. And this lack of progress is frustrating for universities, which are stuck in a kind of watch and wait position. They don't want to force the government into a politically toxic debate over immigration, especially with domestic sentiment still being wary of increased migration. The politics of Brexit still cast a long shadow over discussions like this, making it difficult to take clear action even when the benefits are obvious. And Vivian Stern emphasized that it's not in the university's interest for the government to get dragged into a heated debate about immigration, as that could backfire and lead to even stricter immigration policies. The fear is that if the issue is mishandled, it could lead to further restrictions that would make it even harder for students to come to the UK, not just from the EU, but from all over the world. And that would be a lose-lose situation for everyone. It's a delicate balancing act for the universities. On the one hand, they want to advocate for what's best for their students and their institutions. On the other, they recognize the political sensitivities involved, especially with Brexit still being a polarizing issue for many. Instead of Erasmus, the UK government has introduced the Turing scheme as a replacement. The Turing scheme was designed to offer opportunities for UK students to study abroad. While it has some similarities to Erasmus, there are notable differences. Turing facilitates 4-week placements and it offers vocational opportunities, which is a step forward in some ways, but it lacks the depth and structure of Erasmus. Erasmus allowed students to study for up to 12 months, offering a richer, more immersive cultural and educational exchange, and the kind of experience where students truly get to know the country they're in, learn a new language, and understand a different way of life. Turing, while a step in the right direction, just doesn't have the same impact. Moreover, Turing is focused on sending UK students abroad, but it doesn't do as much to bring international students to the UK in return. It's kind of a one-way street in that regard, and that's part of the problem. The exchange aspect of Erasmus was what made it so powerful. Students moving in both directions, sharing experiences, and building bridges between countries. One potential solution that has been floated by Universities UK is to revisit the kind of correction mechanism used in the Horizon Science Programme negotiations. For those who may not know, the Horizon Programme is a major EU science funding initiative, and the UK fought hard to be an associate member after Brexit. And the correction mechanism allowed the UK to claw back funding if it contributed more than it received, a safeguard to make sure that the deal was financially fair for Britain. And Vivian Stern has suggested that a similar mechanism could be used to make Erasmus more financially viable for the UK. But finances, in both regards, was never the real issue. It's a creative idea and could help address one of the major sticking points in the previous negotiations, the question of who pays for what. But even if this were to be put on the table, it would require political will from both sides to make it happen. And that's where the challenge lies. The irony here is that the benefits of bringing EU students back to the UK are clear. Not only do they bring in tuition fees, as I said, which help to fund the universities, but they also support the economy by living, spending, and sometimes even working. And I mentioned that earlier in the video, I know. But yet the political climate has made it incredibly difficult to make any headway. Education, it seems, has become an afterthought in these larger discussions about Brexit, overshadowed by trade deals, security arrangements, and other agreements that are seen as more politically urgent. And Starmer's cautious language about the youth mobility scheme also tells us something. Even though he acknowledged the importance of the meeting, he was clear that there were no plans for such a scheme at the moment. And this hesitancy reflects the challenges that the current Labour government is facing. How to rebuild ties with the EU without reawakening the old divisive debates about Brexit. EU sources have suggested that both sides will continue to work together over the next 6 months, trying to lay out a roadmap for cooperation in different areas. There's even talk of a UK-EU summit in the spring of next year. But for students and for the universities that are eager to bring them back, that timeline feels distant and uncertain. In the meantime, British universities are left to make do with what they have. And Vivian Sterner said that University UK is holding back on making any strong demands of the government right now, preferring to see how things develop. And they don't want to be seen as prescriptive or risk having student exchanges used as a bargaining chip in the bigger negotiations. It's a careful balancing act, trying to advocate for what's best for the universities without inadvertently causing a backlash. But one thing is clear, universities are growing impatient. The loss of EU students isn't just about numbers, it's about what those students bring to the table, as I said. And they enhance the learning experience, create lifelong connections, and make British universities a place where cultures meet and exchange ideas. Without them, something essential is missing. So, where does this leave us? For now, it seems that British universities will have to wait and see if the government is willing to revisit Erasmus or come up with any other way to bring back EU students. There is hope, but it's tempered by the reality of political exchanges and challenges. The education sector is one of the areas most impacted by Brexit, yet it is also one of the least discussed. And students who are the future of society deserve better than to be an afterthought in political negotiations. And I'm quite sure this video will also have very fewer views than other topics. But the benefits of exchange programs like Erasmus are undeniable, and they create opportunities, foster understanding, and build the kind of cross-border relationship that we need more than ever in today's world. And I'll be keep watching the story closely here at Outside Views, and I'll update you as they come. And it's clear that this issue isn't going away. And as talks continue, there will hopefully be a moment when the value of international students is recognized and real action is taken. Until then, thanks for joining us, and we hope this deep dive gave you some insight into the ongoing challenges faced by UK universities in the post-Brexit landscape. Make sure to like, share and subscribe for more updates on this and other pressing issues affecting the UK today. See you next time. The next video is right here in the end screen.